Hey guys, Kate McGroy here, founder of Figure Freelancers, and today I have the pleasure of meeting with Brandon Groce, Self-Taught Designer, and he is going to talk with us a little bit about how he got started and his business and some tips that he might have for you if you're ready to start your own business. Brandon?
What's up, guys? So, Kate, thank you for the introduction. My name is Brandon Groce, the Self-Taught Designer. I've been lucky to work with Fortune 500 brands such as Disney, Dannon, and Huggies, and LG as well. So it's, trying to branch off and do your own thing is it's stressful. From the beginning stages, nothing is perfect in the beginning. As I started, I actually did not go to college, so that's why my shtick is Self-Taught Designer. I went to, was kicked out of the house at 18. Tried college, dropped out at 2 months, and I was like, okay, what do we do? So I just like straight up moved to Dallas, Texas, and started working with startups.
Wow.
And trial by fire. I think it was a great opportunity because putting myself in that situation, I was able to learn in a rapid fashion, and get skills and techniques that for someone at my age, like 19, 18, and moving forward, I was able to grow very fast and learn a lot of growth techniques that has enabled me to grow very fast on Instagram. Just be surrounded by a lot of great minds and that knew a lot of things. And I think that being able to surround yourself with people who don't just know one thing. I know, Kate, that you're a designer. I know you've been to Tony Robbins. You've surrounded yourself with great minds like that. And I think that's a big key, to find people not so much that are like yourself, but who, know what you don't know, so you can expand in that way.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote an article not too long ago about, expanding our network. I know that when I was working in design, I've now primarily switched to business coaching, which is a whole new beast. So I got to learn a whole new way of life. But in design, right, I found that a lot of times, I'd go to like an AIGA meeting and I'd talk to these designers and whatnot, but it was like this little bubble. And nobody talked about how people were doing business in other industries. And I think as I've grown and I've gotten into business coaching, and like you said, I went to Tony Robbins, I went to Business Mastery. And one of the things that was so powerful about Business Mastery is you're partnered with people in completely different industries, and you get a completely different view on things that you might not know. Like as a freelancer, I think a lot of freelancers start really as just job hunting. You're constantly job hunting, you're searching for gigs, you're on Upwork, you're doing all of these things. And that's not a business, that's a job. And, if you talk to somebody that is a plumber, they're not out there searching for jobs all the time. They're promoting their business, they're promoting their And so I think part of why I got started with this six-figure freelancer thing was to try and do that. So I love that, expanding your network idea. So how did you get started on your own business? You moved to Dallas, and were you contracting or were you full-on freelancing?
It was a little bit of both. So when I was in Dallas, it was an in-between period of contracting when I was helping build out fitness, like new fitness platforms, and also some of my freelance stuff. So it was an in-between period of contracting and trying to actually build out, gross media. So it was a little funky time, and then trying to push out of being under somebody and gaining the skills while working for somebody else to actually support, gross media and my own work. So hopefully that answers your question.
I think so. I think it's pretty common too. Like you start out and it's like, I think most freelancers start out just with, I got to find work, right? I know I certainly did. And part of my story was going back and forth with that for years. And I'd start a corporate job, I'd find myself miserable, or even a startup job. I spent most of my career in startups. And I loved the actual work. I might love the company, but within 6 months, I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. I just don't belong in there. And so it would just be scramble for work. And it wasn't until the last time that I started freelancing that I got really serious about it. And I started thinking of it, okay, I had to build a business this time and not be constantly hunting for jobs. And that's what shifted everything for me. And it sounds like you kind of did that simultaneously, right? You were doing a little bit of both. Yeah.
I really liked, I felt, I like to steal. I'm a very big proponent. I love the thought of stealing. So I always thought, especially being around other people, being able to absorb, all their different types of techniques. I'm a martial artist. I'm a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So all of my ways of thinking go in that manner. Be able to understand your opponent, to know what they do, what their skills are in order to better yourself. So I kind of go about my day and, my ins and outs of how I try to approach things in that type of manner. So I like to insert myself in situations where it's like, okay, what is the system here? What can I learn? What is right and what is totally not working? Because I know in a lot of the startup situations, they'll still go when it's totally not working. And so I took everything that I could from that situation and brought over to, Groce Media and my own freelance work. To make my own processes out of what I learned. And the process is still the same, inserting myself into different, what I call systems of people to learn what's going on and, add that to my own process, master of none. I talk about, and I feel like I always am saying master of none, but also specialized, because you have to specialize as one person, but you also have to be able to look in all directions at one time as a business owner, because if you're blind to one spot, that one spot someone can stab you, and that's when you lose.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. I mean, Austin Kleon wrote a book a few years ago about steal like an artist, right? And it's so fascinating, and I do the same thing, and I wonder if that's a UX designer thing, that we tend to look at, okay, what's working, let's test that and see how we can modify it. I do a lot of that business, and sometimes it works really well and sometimes it does not, because it's not authentic to you. And so I think finding that balance, and what I teach, it's really important to focus from a marketing standpoint. You want to focus your message on a person or a type of company instead of focusing on really broad topics, because when you're trying to talk to everybody, you're not really talking to anybody. Right. Yeah. So I think that's really great. So how did you, when you were kind of forming either Groce Media or starting in on your freelance stuff, how did you start to understand the market that you wanted to serve or the type of clients? Did you say it was just going to be Fortune 500 companies, or it's just going to be startups? Like, how did you go about that?
Well, it kind of has shifted, because especially during that, if we're talking early stage, it's just like, I need to get something because money needs to come through the door. But as I started to understand positioning, and that you're able to, you don't have to pitch as much if you're specialized. Yeah. I started to go more into the fitness route. And that's why some of the fitness brands that I've worked with in Dallas, and I feel like just because my portfolio was comprised of a lot of those type of case studies, I was able to get more and more of that work. And the people that I was going to, they were like, oh, we really like, literal phrases, we really like that you're specialized and you work with fitness brands. We see that, what you're doing, and we already, you not only do you kill your competition who are, full service agencies, the clients on the other side already have a certain level of respect for that you understand their industry. Yeah. So it went from very fuzzy to, okay, I have enough of this work. Let's position myself to this, so we have some trust in the game. Awesome. And that's worked in my benefit. And, when I can get a star client, that's nice. Because that's always, yeah. So, yeah.
And I think, as you, the more clients you are, like, if you do a really good job for a client in that industry, you just start to get known, right? And you start getting referral work. Yeah. So, what specifically now, like, what are you focused on from a freelance standpoint? I know you've got two businesses going on, right? So yeah, your primary focus.
That's the focus. And that's also another thing. Like I said, I'm very big on focus. And right now I have two things that are kind of going this way and the other. I have Brandon Groce, Self-Taught Designer, who's out there trying to help designers, early stage designers, grow their craft and point people in the right direction. And then there's Groce Media that has to be built, and I need to be able to position that and still have clients come in. So One's more me, it's a personal brand, and the other is Groce Media. So if we're talking about Groce Media, the plans right now is basically just to continuously solidify my foundations in terms of getting case studies. And right now I'm in the game of just consistent outreach, getting my funnel stabilized and hiring somebody to just have that going for me so I can focus more on the personal brand stuff. Because how people are currently finding me is, yes, Groce Media is something, but people know my face. My mom used to tell me, don't ever do anything because people will remember your face and you're going to jail. So that's a lesson I learned very early on.
Good lessons to learn, I suppose. A little terrifying, but yeah. That's awesome. It's so funny. It's really interesting. I found you via Instagram totally randomly. In kind of that similar thing. I'm in a very similar boat. So it's really funny that you say that. I, was a freelance designer and was doing really, really well as a freelance designer. And for some reason decided I needed a bigger purpose. And so I switched into business coaching and that went well for a while. Like I had some great clients. I had things flowing in. I'm like, I'm living my purpose. And then I kind of uncovered the 6-figure freelancers idea. And I, for a little while, got a little stretched between 2 different brands. Very much the way that you are. And then all of a sudden the business stopped coming into one business because I was no longer talking to that client. But I wasn't really talking to them over here either. So it was like, oh my God. And now it's a matter of getting focused again. And I've, split my brand. So I'm right where you are. I completely understand. Maybe we can partner because I think we share a similar client. So with that, like, I think when you're growing 2 different businesses, like part of the struggle is how do you stay focused on what you need to do? Do you have any tips or strategies for somebody out there that's maybe in a side hustle right now or earlier in their business and they're just not quite sure, what to do? Do you have any tips for figuring out what you should work on or shouldn't?
That's a good question. I really do think, and I don't think a lot of people will like this answer, but it's one that I think I've fallen on because it makes the most sense. Because I feel like one of the big quotes nowadays is follow your passion, and that's nice. But
terrible advice, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to have. If I had a passion, it's doing what I love for money. You have to add money into the equation.
Yeah,
because with money. Like, for example, you put ourselves in a situation we have, like for right now, Groce Media is the one that's bringing in income. So I need to stay focused on Groce Media so that I can, let's say, I have that capital to then be like, okay, I've recorded my videos for my personal brand. I now have enough capital to hire this person to purpose for my blog, for my vlogs, and to output that on Instagram. Nice. So I can have more time to focus on the money-making, generating piece of the puzzle. And I think that's what we have to focus on early on. Find what you can do that's within your passion that makes the most money so that you can then spread your wings further rather than going really deep into something you're really passionate about, but that has that is not monetarily fruitful for you to expand your wings.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm so with you on that. That was another thing I did a video on not too long ago about so there's a big movement right now, particularly in coaching, is like building a heart-based business. And it turns out your heart has really bad sense of business. Like your heart should not be running your business. And so I'm starting to try to teach people you can be compassionate about the people that you serve, but if it's part of your purpose in life, if it's part of your mission in life, do that shit for free, give it away. If it's part of your business, you do it for profit, right? So we've got to stop building businesses around things that aren't profitable. We've got to stop building businesses around serving people that are not willing to pay you for your work. And it's the same way with freelancers or coaches. It doesn't mean you don't serve people. You give some stuff away and you elevate people until they can hire you, right? But as a freelancer, when I started freelancing and I focused on anybody that would pay me anything, I struggled because nobody saw my worth. When I focused on startups and a very specific problem I was solving for them, game changer, $120K working part-time from my living room. And the shift was small.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love that. I mean, I think that's really important. Do you remember, I'm assuming you remember, but how did you get your first client that really was like a game changer for you and made you realize that like things were moving in the right direction?
My first client that things were moving in the right direction, that was actually my first, okay. My first one, it was less money, but it set me up so well. It's called the Inspire Sports League. It is one of the biggest federations in the Dallas area that's where bodybuilding was born.
Okay.
A lot of the athletes are. And that, not only for my portfolio, I think the way that set me up, not monetarily, but just the amount of work and the array of work that I had to show after that, and how much press what I was creating got people's eyes on me.
Gotcha.
And then that's where I was just like, that was my oh shit moment. I haven't had another oh shit moment, because the other clients, for example, like LG, that wasn't a reach out. They came to me because of some of the Instagram accounts that I run as well. So in Disney, it was a small project. For the oh shit moment, it's because I had so much control and all the things that I created. Not only was there a lot of pride, but it also set me up so well. So it might not have been like the biggest brand name client, but it did the most out of anything that I've worked on for my career thus far.
And they came to you?
LG came to me, yes.
Nice.
But for the Inspire Sports League, they come to me too. But that was the biggest setup for my career.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about Instagram for a minute, since I found you on there, and you've got a lot of followers on Instagram, which is fascinating to me because I can't get that platform to grow to save my life. So what are some of the marketing strategies that have been most effective for you, whether that's Instagram exclusively or anything else that you do as a freelancer? I tend to recommend for my clients to pick one platform and kind of focus on that. Is that something that you do yourself?
100%. 100%. Especially as a freelancer, you have so much time, but you have so little time in specific actions. So I like to recommend Instagram because, number one, it's all, I can't make this pretty or say this right, but it's all aesthetics. And you can, especially as a designer, you can make a lot of, if you wanted to, you could fake a lot of aesthetics, but you can make things that people really like. Right. And attention is huge on Instagram. And this is the biggest piece that people miss on Instagram. People post content, but they are not in the community. They do not go through people who also post the related content or are in the niche that they're also in. Look down the entire follower list and engage with all those people. To give you a little glimpse, I'm literally on Instagram probably between like 5 and 6 hours. That's probably lying. 5 and probably even more than that. I go to sleep with Instagram in my hand. So it takes a lot of time understanding, where exactly the people that I'm trying to attract, where they are, and what exactly I need to say, who's watching. People, like when I show people screenshots of my stories, they're like, you actually look at every single person that watch your stories? And I have between 3,000 and 5,000 people that watch my stories, and I know every single person that watches. So it's a lot of paying attention and being sensitive to who's watching, when somebody you're trying to target is watching, how you follow up with them. That's
intense, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty because I think that's really important too. I think so often if you're not already running your business and you haven't had experience in this, it looks really easy, right? And it's not. It's really not. Like, nothing about running a business actually is easy. But the social media in particular, I think, it's the best and the worst thing that has happened to our world, in my personal opinion, right? Because we're so connected, and we can meet people that we would never otherwise. Like this is happening. Yeah. Instagram. But at the same time, if you watch everybody else in these beautiful lives, we don't see what actually goes into that. We don't see what's happening in, behind the scenes. And we don't know how much work goes into getting 20,000, 50,000 followers. And everyone I talk to is like, yeah, like I go to the bathroom and I'm on Instagram. You know, I think it's good to talk about that and share the reality.
Yeah, Instagram is my second lover.
Awesome.
Definitely, yes.
It's good to know you've got a mistress, and she's full of pretty pictures.
Digital Mistress. That should be the name. That should be the title of this segment. Digital Mistress by
I'm writing it down.
Brandon Groce. Write it down.
Brandon Groce and his Digital Mistress Instagram.
Yeah.
So going back to our list of questions, with that in mind, and like all of the work that goes into building your business and doing Instagram, how do you stay motivated on those days when it's like, I just don't want to double tap again? Or whatever it is in your business. You know, we all have hard days. How do you continue to move forward?
I think it's taking the hard day. I mean, I think when I say emotionally strong, I'm aware of what I'm feeling. So when I'm sad, I need to have a sad day. When I'm motivated, I need to have a motivated day. But I guess if changing your question to how do we have more motivated days, if I am answering your question like that, it's I make false scenarios. So something that really gets me upset, and I call it heat in my stomach, is I'll imagine somebody I really care for that dying, and that actually stimulates. These are like state changes. I know mine may be a little bit strange, but I know Tony Robbins talks about some of these things in triggers. But I try to consciously trigger myself into a state of conscious, motivated rage. I don't know what to call it, but it gives me energy to act. And as an athlete, being at tournaments or whatnot, being able to focus in whatever state, I don't have a word for it. I just know the states that I pull from to to motivate me to do work is along the lines what I feel in those different states. And I've kind of like understood what situations I need to pull from for energy and then use that as motivation. I'm not sure. A lot of this is like subconscious and I'm not explaining it very well, but it's just realizing situations that I've had energy in the past and using that to move forward in the future.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, definitely an interesting one to go into kind of sadness or a sad topic to then get energy. But, you know, it's like whatever motivates you, right? Like,
yeah, it's not even really to me, it's not upset. It would be anger. But I think that is a baseline level. Rage almost. It heats me up to where I need to do something about it, or I need to do something. So it would be sad, but also at the same time, I would get the feeling of I need to do something. So that's why they may not be the best images for everybody else. Please, that is not a to-do list. That is just Brandon Groce.
Yeah,
has found heat him up.
That I think it's great.
It's quite hot in here. But anyway.
Yeah, Tony Robbins does talk about state, and he talks about that. You know, imagine. So to kind of take you off the hook for a minute, I'll give you a very similar example. That you're definitely not alone. Like if you're depressed and you're lying around and you're miserable and you're wallowing, and you know, I like to used to like to drink and like watch Grey's Anatomy and cry myself to sleep. Did that for years. But like the alternative, if you wanted to change your state, you'd think about it. If somebody came into your house with a gun, they burglared your house and they put a gun to your head and they said, you cannot cry anymore. Do you think you could probably change your emotional state? Or if somebody said, you need to get up, you know, you're stuck to the sofa, you're so depressed, you need to get up or I'm going to kill your partner. Would you find the energy to get up? Like it's possible to change your emotional state. And if it's possible due to outside factors, it's possible to do it on your own. So I think that's exactly what you've uncovered on your own. And you've been doing that. You're just your own burglar.
All right, we have two good titles now.
Be your emotional burglar with
Brandon's own. We'll have to segment them out. Brandon's own internal burglar and digital mistress.
Yeah.
Find out.
But I think that's really good advice of like being able to motivate yourself and you know, also separating to a certain extent, our emotions from our business. That was a big lesson I had to learn on a similar note. It's like, I don't remember what it was. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and they were talking about their freelance business was falling apart. And it was falling apart because they were focused on the breakup that they had with their partner. And that breakup was destroying the business. And, you know, one of the things that I learned from Tony Robbins is like, there's going to be a part of you that is going to be hurt or anger, whether it's going on in your life or it's childhood trauma. That part of you does not get to run your business. Right? So how do you, have you experienced any of that in your business in terms of needing to separate kind of your business from your personal life, or how you keep going when you've got other stuff, you know, that's distracting you as a business owner?
That's a really hard thing to do, especially somebody, even though I'm able to motivate myself, sometimes I motivate myself too. I have the wrong picture. So, for example, on a good day, I picture, like, let's say I've done 20 days of picturing somebody in my family dying. Imagine, like, that's going to traumatize your brain at a certain point.
A little bit.
So sometimes I go too heated, and then I start to, I call it malfunctioning. So when I get into that type of state, and at that point when I am malfunctioning, I'm not thinking right in terms of like my business mind. So at that point, I know personally I need to de-stress. Something is gone way over this way, so I need to bring it back. And I just know personally, I don't know for anybody else, but finding what recalibrates you, for me, it's working out. I know I get really tense, especially having thinking those type of thoughts over and over to feel myself. And then, you know, thinking that way can traumatize anybody's brain, or I know it does for mine if I do it too much. And I need to come back this way by de-stressing, working out. So, I mean, that's what recalibrates me. I'm not sure for anybody else, but I just know when I'm driving this way, I need to have a release period. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have those moments of malfunctioning. I just think it's natural, and just to understand that's how the body works. Just like stress. Stress to me isn't a bad thing. It's just saying, it's an indicator to me. It's okay, this is what's happening. Be aware of it. Now you have options to do this, that, or the other. You just have to have the brain power to figure out what you need to do personally to de-stress or move forward. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but
yeah, you did, and I think that it's really powerful as well. I think what I'm hearing is it's about finding balance, right? And I think so often in society we talk about this work-life balance, all of that shit, as if it's a state of being, and it's not. Balance is a verb. Balance is a verb. You're constantly shifting from one to another, and you're going to have days when you have to work full throttle, and other days when you get to relax. And it's about staying closer to that center, but you're always adjusting, right? You don't live in a state of bliss. If you do, you're probably a monk. You're not working for your food.
You've opted out of the system.
You've opted out of the system. Exactly. So awesome. So do you have a favorite book, blog, podcast, or other resource that you would recommend for somebody that's thinking about, you know, starting a business or is in the early stages of running their business?
I absolutely love, his name is Chris Do. I'm pretty sure you're familiar.
Sounds familiar.
Chris Do from the Future on YouTube.
No, actually, I don't think I know him.
He is an amazing designer from, he's a business owner. He's the owner of Blind, his creative agency. And his segments, he literally brings a freelancer on, and literally they have like monthly meetups about like how her progress is going. And in the beginning, like just watching her progress and how he's like mentoring her, and a lot of the like knowledge juice that comes out of those 20, 30-minute segments are just really amazing, because not only do you get to see when she's like the very first episode when she's like charging like ass. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're really watching. But,
it's okay.
Bleep for logo and, you know, brand design. And then Chris Do is like, no, this is what we're going to do. And next time we come back, you're going to have implemented that stuff, and we're going to come back and talk about it. The next time she comes back, she's like, all my clients are gone. What you said has ruined me. But then the next time she comes back, after they've had their chat, and he tells her to just be patient and implement some more of these things. So now at that point, she was charging for strategy, $5,000 for just strategy. That's no work. And then learning how to next step. Actually, I think it was $10,000. It was a good amount of money just for strategy that she was just learning, from being dried up to strategy, and then actual work that was even, getting paid before she even did anything physical. And then her journey keeps going and going. And I just think for anybody who's new or doesn't know where to start, like even today, like looking back at that, I'm like, shit, I still don't do that.
Right. I was just thinking. Yeah, I used to. Yeah. That's fantastic. Chris from the future, was it?
Yeah. The and future, Futur. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. What business tool or online software could you not live without and still run your business? Like, what is that one thing that would just destroy you? Is it Instagram or
Immediately, yes. Because that's where I do my outreaching. That's where everything goes. All goes down in the DMs, Kate.
It all goes down in the DMs. Great tweetable right there.
Well, we don't use Twitter here. We don't use.
Oh,
Twitter. Right. Are you a big supporter of Twitter?
No, although I'm not. I don't use or social media at all very well. But when I was doing design, I actually did get a lot of business from Twitter. Because I was interacting. It was a few years ago that I was really into in design, and the startups were mostly on there because it was a good community. So interacting with the startup founders and different groups and just sharing that info, that's what drove traffic to my website, which is where I captured my customers. These days, I'm doing exactly what I tell my clients not to, and kind of like I have all of my fingers in all of the pies, and I'm not doing any of them particularly. No. I know, but I'm aware of it. Yeah, and
at least we know all 10 fingers are in 10 pies.
Yes, all of the pies, and so I'm not getting the rewards I need from social media, and I've gone in mostly on Instagram, but I think I've realized that doing the 4 to 5 hours a day is just it's not in line with my personal values, and so I've actually switched to kind of doing more paid marketing and paid advertising, as well as referral just reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And that seems to be working a little better for my personality. I think as I've grown older, I have less, how to put this nicely, I have less patience for spending a lot of time on social media anymore. I think it's stage.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, for me, 5 to 6 hours on Instagram is most likely my toilet time. So, so I can understand why one would not want to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I love Instagram, but it's a lot of work. And so I think I've identified that that's the first thing that I'm going to be outsourcing when I get to the next level of my business, and it's just like planning for that. And I actually have a gal that I've been working with a little bit, and I'm having a proposal put together for having her take over and really manage that, because I do love Instagram and I take photos like a crazy person. It's ridiculous how many photos I take, but where I've gotten stuck is like, now I have to come up with a caption, and then I've got to be doing all of that stuff and engaging all of the time, and I love the people that I do engage with, but the reach out is just
it's brutal. Yeah, so in that respect, paid is a lot easier because you're just like, here's my money. It's the same as hiring somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I like the organic nature, and I really do. Like, I've met some incredible people by doing that reach out. It just takes a lot of energy. So picking and choosing what's important, I think, is a really hard thing as an early stage business owner, but also so valuable.
Whatever brings in money, do that. Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's another tip I learned not too long ago. I had a gal, she's an investor, and she was like, she recommended the Post-it game, which is keep a Post-it note Tag Post-it notes next to you, and all day, every time you do something, write down whether or not it was revenue producing or not. And then at the end of the week, anything that's not, you stop doing.
Oh.
So really interesting, right? Just starting to ask yourself, all right, is this actually going to get me closer to revenue, or am I stuck in, perfection? Like, I can't tell you how many times I have tweaked, little tiny things on my site because I'm a designer, right? We want everything to be pretty. But that's not going to bring in the business. I've got to do the outreach to bring in the actual.
Yes.
Like, design is important, but it's only as valuable as the leads that are coming.
What it brings. Yes, exactly. I agree 100%.
So with that in mind, what's next for you and your business? We have just a couple minutes left. So what do you have planned for the next year, or the next big goals for you personally, or for Groce Media, whatever you'd like to talk about?
So my goals for this year and going on to the next is just like I think I touched on in the beginning of our chat, is really just refining the foundation of Groce Media and the case studies that I have on there. So once I have my foundation, I'll be outreaching to other clients, or basically just getting a whole bunch of leads and just sending out emails to potential clients, and just having that be what is the system. So once the foundation is built, just having the constant outreaching to potential clients, and just have somebody manage that while I move on to doing more of my personal brand stuff. Because once the foundation is built, my case studies are there. All it is about keeping, touching base with new potential clients.
Right. So automated. So you're looking for automated systems for what's already.
Automated email campaigns, so that I can just have like between 1,500 or 5,000 people just outreach per week, and just continuously see what hits, what doesn't, and have that early conversation, and the next step is automating my email campaigns and email funnel.
Scaling and automating, great place to spend your time. So thinking about somebody that is looking at starting their own business or just getting started, what else would you think is important that I haven't asked you, or that we haven't touched on today? Do you have any last minute tips?
For starting your business?
Starting your business, dealing with the fear or the overwhelm, whatever comes to mind. If you could look into the cube of somebody that is stuck in a Fortune 500 cubicle right now, dreaming about running their own business and having the freedom to work with the clients that they want to work with, what advice would you give them?
Not being afraid to be dumb or look dumb. I have that every day, or I feel, because there's new spaces that I'm trying to move, and I'm not saying that in an insulting way, but the feeling that I still have in some fronts when I'm trying to learn a new piece about, let's say YouTube, because I'm really noob there right now. Me too. Not just taking a whole bunch of information in and just be like, oh, I have the information, but actually when you have a piece, or when you have a piece of information, actually acting on it, rather than just being like, okay, fill my brain with all this information and not really doing. I'm a big doer rather than soaking up of information. I'd learn a lot by doing, and a lot of slap on the wrist than soaking information up. And I got in trouble a lot for it when I was a kid, because my parents were just like, why are you getting in this much trouble? But I think my way of doing things to learn the best way to go about stuff has been the same ever since I was a kid, because I wasn't afraid to be like the kid in class when the teacher asked what's 1 + 1 and I said 5.
I think it's great. You and me, kindred spirits. I think it's about adopting a testing mindset is what I talk about it with people, right? Is like, don't be afraid to try it, and launch before you're ready. Like you probably learned working in startups, right? If you're not embarrassed by the first thing that you launched way too late, right? Because you're waiting and you're focusing on waiting for that perfect time. You're waiting for that perfect website. And I have a lot of people that come to me that are so good at what they do, and then they just never launch, because it's like, well, I didn't have 3 blog posts on my website, so I couldn't launch. Hide the blog tab. Put the website out there. Like, you're never going to have a business if you don't launch, or if you don't tell somebody you're in business, you're not in business, right? Like it's
Right.
just getting through that and adopting a testing mindset. So I think that's fantastic advice to end on. I thank you so much for your time and taking the time to talk with me today. It was a total pleasure. I think you're fantastic and I love what you're doing. And I look forward to talking again. So anything else you'd like to say to our audience before we close?
Well, before we close, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for your time and, saying hi to me on Instagram and reaching out. I really appreciate that. Not finding another like-minded person on the other day, or not the other day, in another day. You're on Thursday, I'm on Wednesday. In another time zone. And that we can connect in this way and, chat about things that we're very passionate about and also learn from one another. So,
I appreciate it.
but to the viewers, I just want to say, again, just everything that me and Kate, went through, like, don't just take it and be like, oh, yes, all right, done, let's close the laptop. Act upon some of these things. I know we didn't really give action items, but it's just trying it. Even if you don't really know, just hitting a button is good enough. You'll learn that that's not the button you push, or maybe it is the right button you push. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I love it. Take immediate action and go chase your dreams, right? So with that,
dreams that make money, dreams that, yes.
Focus on what's going to get you closer to revenue. Fastest path to cash, but take the action. The action is what's going to get you results.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Brandon, and have a wonderful day.
All right, you too, Kate.